If Da Vinci were alive today, he'd probably laugh at how most people invest in Bitcoin, not because he was smarter, but because he had a system to outthink everyone. In the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly how that system would work in 2025 and how you can steal it. But think about it. This guy sketched helicopters before engines existed, cracked anatomy without x-rays, and built war machines with zero modern tools. Now imagine what he'd do with access to the blockchain. I mean, if anyone could figure out crypto without falling for some meme coin scam, it's the guy who literally wrote his journals backwards to keep his ideas safe. So in this video, we're not just talking about Bitcoin, we're diving into how a 500-year-old genius would navigate crypto in 2025, how he'd invest, what he'd avoid, and how he'd probably outsmart 99% of people in the game today. And trust me, the way he'd do it, it's nothing like what you're seeing on your feed. Let's get into it. Who was Leonardo da Vinci really? You know, most people hear the name Leonardo da Vinci and immediately picture the Mona Lisa or the Last Supper, like he was just some bearded painter with a thing for cryptic smiles. But let me tell you, the painting? That was just a side quest for this guy. Da Vinci was a literal superhuman thinker. He wasn't just an artist, he was an anatomist, engineer, sculptor, inventor, architect, musician, philosopher, all in one human. Imagine the curiosity of Elon Musk, the eye of Picasso, the precision of a surgeon, and the depth of a philosopher, mashed into one guy walking around in the 1400s. He sketched out concepts for helicopters and submarines 400 years before they even existed. This man drew machines that couldn't physically be built in his time, but were scientifically sound. That's how ahead of his time he was. And it wasn't guesswork either. He obsessed over data and systems. He dissected over 30 human corpses just to understand how muscles and organs worked, and he documented everything with shocking accuracy, by hand, in secret code, backwards, not because he wanted to be mysterious, but because he had to hide his knowledge in a world that wasn't ready for it. And that's what makes him so interesting to talk about in the context of Bitcoin, because Da Vinci wasn't driven by profit or popularity or shortcuts. He was powered by pure, relentless curiosity. If he didn't understand something, he wouldn't sleep until he broke it down, rebuilt it, and mastered it. That was his process. Now, put that kind of brain in 2025, where information is instant, tech is exponential, and crypto is this wild, unpredictable frontier. That's not just a cool what-if scenario. That's a mental model for how we could be thinking about investing, innovation, and the future. What would attract Da Vinci to Bitcoin? Alright, so we've established that Da Vinci was basically a one-man think tank. But let's say we drop him into 2025. He's got a Neuralink translator plugged in, a MacBook on his desk, and internet access. What would grab his attention first? Bitcoin, 100%. Why? Because it's not just digital money, it's mathematics, philosophy, art, security, and systems, all mashed into one living network. That's like Da Vinci's dream buffet. Think about this. Da Vinci was obsessed with decentralization before the word even existed. He didn't trust centralized power, not in politics, not in religion, not in science. That's why most of his radical ideas were hidden. Now imagine him discovering that Bitcoin is a currency that no king, no government, no pope can control. It runs purely on math and collective trust. He'd lose his mind. And don't even get me started on the cryptography. This guy wrote most of his notes in mirror writing, literally backwards, as a kind of primitive encryption to protect his ideas. Now you show him SHA-256 hash functions, digital wallets, private keys. He'd be like, wait, you're telling me I can create a digital signature, lock it in a time chain, and no one can alter it without breaking the laws of math? That's not just security, that's art. Then there's the idea of consensus. Bitcoin isn't valuable because someone said so. It's valuable because millions of people around the world agree that it has value. That's exactly the kind of bottom-up thinking Leonardo would be into. He hated dogma. He questioned everything. He trusted experiments, not titles. And honestly, Bitcoin is the closest thing we have to a real-world thought experiment in economics and technology. It's not owned by anyone. It doesn't sleep. It's both chaotic and elegant. If that doesn't scream Da Vinci, I don't know what does. And the best part, he'd probably be less interested in the money and more obsessed with how the whole thing even works. Da Vinci's investment strategy in 2025. Okay, now here's where things get real interesting. Let's say Leonardo da Vinci has done his homework. He understands blockchain. He gets the principles of decentralization, and he's officially obsessed. But the million-dollar question is, how would he actually invest in Bitcoin? Because let's be honest, Da Vinci wouldn't just YOLO into the market after watching a TikTok. Nah, this guy would have a system, and it would be unlike anything we've ever seen. First off, he'd research like a maniac. This is the same same man who spent 12 years dissecting the human body just to figure out how the heart pumps blood. You think he's just gonna ape into Bitcoin because some influencer shouted, "Bull run"? No chance. Da Vinci would be deep in the white papers, tracing the origins of Satoshi's ideas, building flowcharts of the blockchain protocol by hand. He'd probably design his own digital ledger just to test how it works. And get this, he wouldn't stop at Bitcoin. Leonardo was never about just one thing. He'd diversify, but intelligently. He'd probably hold Bitcoin for its philosophical and foundational value, kind of like owning gold, but smarter. Allocate some to Ethereum for its potential as a decentralized world computer, because the applications would fascinate him. Experiment with a few smaller, utility-driven altcoins, maybe ones connected to AI, renewable energy, or tech innovation. But here's what he wouldn't do. He wouldn't touch meme coins, hype coins, or anything that doesn't pass a logic test. If it doesn't solve a real problem or push tech forward, it's out. And the way he'd manage risk, he'd probably use experimental models, charts, drawings, simulations. He might even invent a totally new way to visualize market behavior, because Da Vinci didn't guess. He studied, tested, adjusted, and only then acted. Now here's the kicker. He wouldn't be in it for quick flips or moonshots. Da Vinci's patience was legendary. He spent 4 years painting the Mona Lisa, and then kept it with him until he died, constantly tweaking it. So yeah, he'd HODL, but not because Twitter told him to. He'd do it because he'd understand the long game. He'd see Bitcoin not just as an asset, but as a blueprint for a future civilization. How would Da Vinci handle crypto volatility and scams? Now let's be real. Crypto in 2025 isn't just innovation and smart contracts. It's also chaos, scams, volatility, and enough red flags to start a medieval war. So here's the question. What happens when Leonardo da Vinci, the ultimate thinker, steps into the crypto jungle? Simple. He doesn't panic. He analyzes. Da Vinci lived in the middle of the Renaissance, a time full of political plots, religious pressure, and scientific censorship. He knew how to navigate chaos while keeping his ideas safe. He even coded his entire notebooks so they couldn't be misused or misinterpreted. That's the level of caution we're talking about. So when a random altcoin starts pumping 500% overnight, he's not buying in. He's asking, who built this? What problem does it solve? Is it mathematically sound? Can it survive a market crash? How would Da Vinci store his Bitcoin? Alright, so let's say Da Vinci's done his research, built his portfolio, avoided the scams, and held through the dips like an absolute Renaissance savage. Now comes the big one. How does he keep his Bitcoin safe? Because let's be honest, this isn't the kind of guy who's writing his seed phrase on a post-it note and shoving it in the kitchen drawer. Nah, Leonardo da Vinci would go full vault mode. First off, he'd 100% use cold storage, no question. This is a guy who hid inventions behind double-layered trapdoors and documented scientific breakthroughs in reversed mirror script. You think he's leaving his crypto on a hot wallet? Not a chance. But here's where it gets crazy. Da Vinci would probably design his own hardware wallet, like a handcrafted mechanical device that uses gears, pressure sensors, maybe even some biometric trigger, just to unlock it. It wouldn't look like tech. It would look like a piece of Renaissance art. But inside, it'd be the Fort Knox of private keys. And the location? He wouldn't just hide it in a drawer. We're talking secret compartments behind walls, rotating bookshelf mechanisms, maybe a stone statue that only opens when you tilt its head to a 37-degree angle. Remember, this is a man who designed machines with booby-trapped gears in the 1400s. Security wasn't just important to him, it was part of the art. Now, let's say he wants to split access, maybe even share ownership across multiple locations or generations. Da Vinci would love multi-sig wallets. Why? Because it aligns perfectly with his love of shared responsibility and engineered redundancy. He'd create something like one key stored in Florence, one key passed down through family, one locked in a mechanical vault, timed to open 100 years in the future. Yeah, that's Da Vinci level crypto custody. And he wouldn't just be securing his coins, he'd be engineering a legacy, planning decades ahead, designing systems that outlast even him. Because for Da Vinci, value wasn't about the moment, it was about timelessness. Da Vinci's long-term Bitcoin vision. Alright, we've seen how Da Vinci would research, invest, dodge scams, and protect his Bitcoin. But now it's time to ask the big question. What would Leonardo da Vinci actually see in Bitcoin? Beyond the charts, beyond the profits, like, what's the big picture? Because let's not forget, this guy wasn't just building for the now. He was designing things that wouldn't even be possible for centuries. He saw the future before the future could see itself. So what does he see in Bitcoin? He sees architecture, not buildings, systems. He sees Bitcoin as the foundation for a new kind of civilization, a structure built not on kings, not on fiat, not on fragile trust, but on mathematics, transparency, and time-proof design. This man literally invented mechanisms powered by water pressure and gravity, systems that could function without electricity. So when he looks at Bitcoin's code, a system that runs with no CEO, no headquarters, and no borders, he's thinking, this is what permanence looks like. And that capped supply, 21 million coins, ever. Da Vinci would call that a masterstroke of design. Why? Because he understood balance between scarcity and abundance, art and function. To him, Bitcoin wouldn't just be a store of value, it'd be a philosophy, a way to challenge central power, reimagine human coordination, build trust through logic, not titles. And if you asked him, where do you see Bitcoin in 100 years? He wouldn't give you a price prediction, he'd give you a vision, a world where people no longer beg for permission to own value, where systems are open, not hidden, where legacy is built not through force, but through code that lasts. That's how Da Vinci would see it, not just as money, but as human potential in digital form. After all that, how would Leonardo da Vinci invest in Bitcoin in 2025? Simple. He'd study harder than anyone, think deeper than anyone, and invest with a vision way beyond what most people can even imagine. No chasing hype, no gambling, no shortcuts. He'd treat Bitcoin like a system of nature, something to observe, understand, and build with, not just profit from. And the crazy part? Everything he'd do, you can do too. You don't need to be a Renaissance genius. You just need to ask better questions, zoom out, and stop thinking like a sheep. So here's the challenge. Next time you're about to jump on a crypto trend, ask yourself, is this something Da Vinci would invest in? If the answer's no, walk away. If the answer's yes, study it, test it, learn everything about it, then make your move. Because investing like Da Vinci, it's not about being early, it's about being right and timeless. Drop a comment below. What do you think Da Vinci would create in the crypto world? Would he build his own blockchain, tokenize art, design a decentralized vault? Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and share this with a fellow curious mind who's still stuck in fiat. This was a journey through time, tech, and a whole new mindset. Catch you in the next one. Think like Da Vinci, invest like a visionary.